I am a chiropractor, and I am here to give you a message of hope and healing that with a solution that's doable, that's something you can sign up for, that's predictable, that has a guarantee, that's cost effective, and it's for weight loss, body sculpting, and overall metabolic health improvement. And it's quite fantastic. It's been practicing in this exact genre and this procedure for over 15 years. We've had successfully treated over 7,000 clients right here in the Stuart, Florida area. We're located on East Ocean Boulevard, right across the street from the Fresh Market, next to Carmela's Pizza. Used to be the Haagen-Dazs for you locals, and today it's now called Dr. Tread's Slim Body Laser Spa. And we're actually going to be rebranding this next month or so. It's going to be called Dr. Tread's Laser Weight Loss and Rejuvenation. So it is something that is very unique to this area. You know, what I'm doing with these red light FDA cleared devices to help accelerate weight loss, to help improve how you look, to basically melt away stubborn fat deposits, and without any diet or exercise really necessary. I mean, you have to eat clean and you need to be common sense, but most of you out there have figured that out. It's just that you're not getting any results on how you look when you look at yourself in the mirror, how your pants fit, and overall maybe your weight is changing, but you're not being healthier at the same time. So there's a lot of misconceptions about what you should do to lose weight. And is it really all about the scale? You know, what the weight says, that you lost 10 pounds or 20 pounds? And I could tell you that that's only a little part of it. There's a lot more involved when it comes to losing weight and wanting to be healthier, that most doctors and most, programs and, food delivery services and health coaching, although the coaches are a little better because they are not so restricted to their products, they can actually get out and make other recommendations that make more sense. And your real factor, the real proof that you're healthier is a few things that I'm going to go over here today. And I want you to please remember this, because this is really, really critically important that you know where to focus your energy and where you should focus your time and your money. Because let's face it, if you've been neglecting your health for a long time and you've been waiting to bust a move, and like they say, bust or move, and you've been waiting and waiting, and now you're in your 50s or 60s, the game has changed for you. What used to be so easy, what used to be, cutting a few calories, going for some walks, and you could lose that weight and tone down and have muscle tone. It changes drastically once you're over 50 years old. The whole process changes. What you need to do, the types of foods you should eat, how often, the importance of exercise. Should you get into resistance training, or is it okay just to keep jumping up and down running? It's very complicated and confusing, because the same effort, I like to use it as a almost like a get out of jail card. You play your Monopoly game and you get that get out of jail card, and even if you screwed up and you were somebody who should be in jail, you got that card, you get right out. Well, that's the gift of youth right now. And if you're listening to this program, you're probably over 40 or 50 years old. Most of our listeners are older. And you don't have to tell them how much things have changed when it comes to food they eat, how much, what works, what doesn't, what makes them feel better, what they enjoy, things they're not willing to give up, habits that are entrenched in their habits and their past. And and then of course there's so much misinformation, and I don't want to say misinformation because I don't like that word. There's a lot of people giving you advice that only treats one little part of a person's problem, one avenue, one issue. And gosh darn it, we're very complex human beings. We eat foods, we need to exercise, we need sleep, we need sunlight, we need to ground, to touch the earth. We need the right nutrients. We need the right amount we need to cut out the radiation from our life, all the electromagnetic radiation devices, the modems and the blue screens. There's so much we're starting to learn about what it is to really be healthy, that if the only tool you have is the scale, when you get up in the morning and you look at that scale and you say, wow, I'm holding my weight, or maybe I've lost weight, but you might have done it unhealthy, ways that are unhealthy, like starving. Although starving is not so bad because we call that fasting, and fasting is a great tool. But skipping meals, eating little bits every day, never, making sure that you have breakfast every morning, never letting your blood sugar drop too much by eating periodically every 2 or 3 or 4 hours. We used to teach that. And today, the statistics and the science is clear that if you don't go a certain amount of time without eating any food, if you don't go into like a caloric deficient state, which we call fasting, at least every week, you're going to accumulate too much body fat in the form of carbohydrates and in the form of jacking up your insulin levels. And most people are suffering from what we call hyperinsulinemia, too much body fat, but they've never ever trained their body how to burn body fat. So, fat is a gift from our maker to get us through times when we have no food. And your ancestors used to call it winter, right? And if you're lucky enough to make it through winter without starving to death, now 10,000 years ago, 20,000, most of our human population starved to death because they didn't have enough fat when the winter came. And hear me out on this. If you're fortunate enough to make it through the winter, last winter, and still have body fat, that stuff is precious and valuable to your overall wellness and your ability to survive. Because if it wasn't for technological advancements and industrialization and factory farms and the ability to keep things cold and the ability to heat things up, and we live in a food scarce environment, really. The earth, before we decided to make food a business model, it was hard to find food. Your ancestors spent most of their day looking and searching for food and for cleaning water and then making sure that you had that. And so it was also very interesting, but your ancestors, they never mixed foods together. And this is something that I just learned about, but it makes sense. You're a hunter and gatherer, your tribe is looking, is moving with the animals and looking for the right climate and the right safe water, and that involves a lot of walking and looking for areas. And so then you might come across an animal, or you're able to kill an animal, and hopefully you figured out how to make fire by now, and you're able to eat that, or you ate it raw, which we did. And then what would happen is then you might go several days, a week or two without having any more calories. Your tribe ate that kill. And then what'll happen is the next thing you might find are some roots or some tubules or some sprouts that are coming up fresh out of the ground, depending on what time of year it is. So then you would eat those carbohydrates in the form of fresh foliage, and maybe some other things, like maybe you found some bees with some honey and you found some sweet things. Maybe your ancestors taught you the sweet flowers to eat. I remember the little honeysuckle flowers in New York, that you take that flower and it's honey inside of it, you know? So that might be where you got your sweets from, you know, and yet you ate that for a day or two or half the day or maybe a couple hours, and then you're back not eating again, right? You're looking again for food, and it's pretty much 24/7. But what's important to understand, and why I'm explaining this to you, everybody kind of knows this. However, food, our bodies were never really designed to eat food that's been combined together as one product. They call them food products. Now, we know what food is. Food is a vegetable. Food is a piece of fruit. Food is some protein. Food is some fat. Okay? And then what happens is when we eat each one of those individually, your body is able to handle the glycemic load from the sugar that's in the fruit, from the carbohydrates that's in it. And then you've also got the proteins and the fats from the animal product or the fish that you ate. You didn't mix them all together. And you know, whenever you look at the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, when you mix them together and cook them together and process them together to create a different product, you pretty much have destroyed most of the nutritive qualities and amounts that were inherent in that food before it was processed and moved into a food product. And this is really important, you guys, because what happens is when you cook something and process it, you've basically destroyed the fiber. You've destroyed the phytonutrients. You've destroyed a lot of the enzymes and a lot of these factors of nutrition and growth that are inherent in food when it's naturally, when it's live. You've released the energy from the food, because carbohydrates, they hold energy in the form of the sunlight, and the photosynthesis creates these energy packets within the food. And when we eat raw food and we chew it up and it goes into our system, we're releasing an enormous amount of ATP, this energy that's necessary for life, because the food you ate holds a lot of life in it because it has not been processed. When you process it, cook it, cut it from the vine, preserve it, try to save it, mix it with other things, you now have something which is no longer just food. It becomes a food product. And hence you have a business model, which is enormous. It's called the food industry. And they've been fighting and arguing and getting patents and creating their own brands, their own food products, which they can then market. They can label it. They can charge people when they sell it, and they want their percentage because they have their patent to it. They've created that food product. And this is where, you know, I know we have a new administration coming in, and one of the people that is being chosen to be on that administration is Robert Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, and he is definitely a hawk when it comes to trying to get the poisons and the toxins out of our food, trying to get the the ingredients and trying to make medicine safer and things. But what is really going to be hard is that the food industry, this juggernaut, this probably the most successful business industry we have in America, is licensed and has patents and controls what goes on your what use shows up at the refrigerator at the grocery store. And one of the reasons why fruits and vegetables are not promoted as much as they should be is because nobody has a patent for it. They don't own the rights to broccoli. They don't own the rights to beets or to lettuce. So anything that they own the rights to is where they make their money. And I think it's going to be a lot harder than people realize to clean up the food industry in America, because there's so many people that are employed by this industry, from the trucks that drive it around to the ads that go on the Super Bowl to make you buy Doritos, nacho cheese, and to Cheez-Its and Whizzes, and just it's a conga line of garbage. Yet it's been so promoted and so pushed and so available and made so cheaply that to take it away, if you don't understand how toxic it is, you're going to have a lot of pushback against that. So step number 1, eat clean, man. Eat real food. Stop buying processed food. Stop buying food that's frozen, food that's been mixed together. I remember as a youth, the day that they had the Swanson TV dinner. Do you remember that? It was the Salisbury steak was my favorite, and the turkey with stuffing. Okay. Now, when these TV dinners came around, they were put in a piece of tin so you could heat it up in the oven, not in a microwave. Microwaves destroy the quality and the nutrition in food, by the way. Microwaves destroy the nutritive quality that's inherent in foods when you overheat them, by the way. Heating it up in an oven is a much better idea, or even steaming it in a bowl of hot water to heat things up. Use a pot. Try to stay away from that stupid microwave oven, because the energy it uses changes the biochemical structure of water and of the food products, and it changes it. So you put that TV dinner in, it's got a little tin foil on it, you crack it and you put it under the oven, and it's frozen, and it starts to thaw out, and basically you eat it. Now, that was the beginning of processed food for the most part, in my opinion, when it first started coming out more available. And so, however, if you took a TV dinner that was made in the 70s with the Salisbury steak and the gravy and the mashed potatoes that are with it, and maybe a vegetable, those foods are very lightly processed. They did not have, they might have some, some food coloring, and they might have had something to give it a longer shelf life, which is what the additives are. Yet it didn't near come completely what's happening with food products today. They are so overprocessed, and there's so much chemicals and petroleum-based products in our foods that this is a huge source of sickness, disease, ill health, low energy, low libido, and as a result, obesity. And it's really coming from the food you eat. Now, one of the things that it's not as much about exercise. It's really not. It's not much about that you're having a few alcohol drinks or that you like a sweet every now and then. It is the constant, unrelenting consumption of processed food products, because we don't have the time to boil some vegetables. Maybe we should get a steamer. It's better to, we eat food that's been, already been cooked in, these little, I don't know. There's so much processed food. So I'm not trying to beat up too much on it, but I want to give you the first tip: eat real food, man. eat vegetables, eat low sugar fruit, the fruit that occurs in the, fruit has its benefits, but truthfully, there's one reason for fruit, two reasons. One you probably don't know about. One thing is fruit is something which makes fat really fast. You cannot eat a piece of fruit, even a low sugar fruit, without creating two fat molecules. As soon as your body starts to digest that fruit, that grape or that banana or that watermelon or that melon or that plum, it is given to you by God to make fat and give you a little bit of energy. So within a fructose, which is fruit sugar, molecule are two glucoses, two things that are turned into sugar for energy, and two fat molecules that make a triglyceride. Those two triglyceride molecules, along with the glucose, are burned as energy, but those two triglyceride molecules from eating a piece of fruit, they're stored in your liver first. And over consumption of fruit creates fatty liver disease because, again, fructose is split into two molecules. There's two pathways for energy. One is to give you energy so you can think and use your muscles. But the second pathway is to make a little bit of fat so that you can bulk up to go into the winter and not perish in his 5 or 6 months of not having any food. It's an automatic process, people. When you eat a piece of fruit, cut it, half of it goes to power your body with glucose, the other half goes into the liver and is turned into a triglyceride. And this is what's leading to fatty liver disease. And once the liver becomes fat, everything becomes fat. Those extra two fatty molecules you're eating when you have fruit, those two molecules are making and storing fat everywhere in your body. And since you're never, ever not eating more, you're eating, you've never gone a whole day without eating, you've never burned any of that fat because you have to go 24 hours without eating any food to burn through the glucose, which is stored by the body in the form of glycogen. And at the 20th hour of not eating, your body actually starts to burn some of that fat that's been accumulated in your liver from your processed foods and your excessive amounts of fruit you're eating. So if you go a second day without eating any food, without eating any calories at all, the next, 24 hours, you haven't eaten. Now you're going into 48 hours. That whole 48 hours is your body starting to burn stored fat, not glucose, not carbohydrates, because you burn through them in the first day of not eating. You burn through all those calories. You burn through the glycogen. Now, if you have one morsel of carbohydrate in the middle of this 1 to 2 days of not eating, if you have like a couple peanuts, or you instantly are going to start making glycogen again. You're going to put this whole system back, to the beginning by eating one carbohydrate meal, because you're going to make fat again. You're not going to make fat. You're going to make glucose that's going to go into the liver and store it in the liver. I didn't know this until about 2 or 3 years ago. Was I starting to understand exactly why we're so fat? And the truth is, most people, not most, 90% of our entire population is completely carbohydrate addicted, carbohydrate dependent. And that means to feel better, they need carbs. To not have their blood sugar drop where they think they're, or they're having, sweaty palms, they need carbohydrates to fix themselves. And it's a yo-yo. It's a cycle. up and down, up and down, up and down. And that has to do with insulin. So when you eat a carbohydrate, which is fat or a I'm sorry, if you eat a carbohydrate, which is a vegetable or a fruit, you have to require your body to produce insulin to clear the blood sugar. Your body produces insulin. And that insulin goes up. It's as high as the amount of blood sugar you eat. So if you have a something which is low in sugar, such as it's not a lot low. Let's say an apple slice, or maybe a tart cherry, or something which is low in sugar, you're not going to get the same insulin spike that you would if you had something which was like a soda, or a Snickers bar, or a piece of candy, or a muffin, like one of these organic muffins, full of sugar. And as soon as you eat it, your insulin, your pancreas, which has to clear the blood sugar because blood sugar is toxic and can kill you, it has to go, whoa, oh my God, look at this. Man, it was like 500 calories of just nothing but high fructose corn syrup in that soda you just drank. And your pancreas gets into action. Wow. Squirts out an enormous amount of insulin to try to clear that blood sugar. And when you're younger, it's not a problem. Yeah, so you had a birthday cake, you had a soda, and your insulin went up and then it went down because it had to clear it. But you're have youth. You still have muscle tone. You still got good digestive absorption. You're still super active. You're out looking for a mate. You're out having fun. You're running upstairs. All these things are productive. So you don't realize that the sugar you're eating is really over time making you sick. And it is. And then you start getting older and you're not exercising as much. You're not as active as you used to be. You don't have the same amount of perfusion. Your blood supply maybe isn't getting to all the organs and tissues like it used to. You become much more rigid in your choices with food. You don't want to try other things. You don't believe in supplementation because they don't want to, somebody's trying to sell you vitamins you don't think you need. And what happens is that carbohydrates that you stored in your body fat, you still got them. They're not out of your body yet. Your body does not release fatty calories until you go into starvation, you guys. It is a protective mechanism that makes sure that if we were to run out of food in the world, you'd have a chance of surviving until either the next year or food comes back. And your body does that with fat. And since most of you are never going more than 24 hours without eating, you've never skipped a day in your life. You are carbohydrate dependent, and you have to eat to feel better. You're going to be going in getting energy drinks when you go to get gas. You're going to need something. You'll go past those puppets, I call them, little snack tray. You need a little sugar here. You got a little some used to be Wrigley's gum, something to get that little sugar pop. And then you can't imagine of going without eating more than a day. So fasting is a powerful, powerful tool to help people to reset your metabolism, to reorient your relationship with food in a positive way. I just can't say enough for it. If you're interested in learning more about fasting and you need help with it, I do offer fasting programs now in my office, unrelated to the laser spa. Cost is about $300 for me to sit down with you and go through your history and do your body fat percentage and see where you're at. And then I can give you the suggestions on fasting. Some people, before they decide to fast, you'll need to get some blood work, because if you have metabolic syndrome, if you're on medications for high blood pressure, high triglyceride, cholesterol, statins, if you're on metformin, glipizide, and you're lowering your blood sugar artificially using drugs, If you've ever had a history of cancer, you want to make sure that your blood work and your metabolism is okay to be able to handle a day or two without eating. Now, I believe you can. 99% of the world, because that's how we were designed to live. However, we've become so sickened and so full of carbohydrate dependent metabolism that your body doesn't really know how to burn fat anymore. It stopped burning fat because you've never challenged it. And to get you back into what we call being fat adapted, sometimes it takes time to do that. To become fat adapted, if you've never gone a day without eating in your life, and there's probably 80, 90% of you have never gone a full day without eating, what happens is you have to start training your body to utilize visceral fat and fat in a way that benefits the day you decide to go into fasting and really repair your metabolism. And that's why people do this thing called intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting simply means eating one time every 24 hours. And so what most people do for intermittent fasting is they only eat from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock once a day. So after 8, no food. Go to sleep. Wake up in the morning, no food. You don't eat food until 4 o'clock that day. And then you're going to have a 4-hour window where you eat with common sense. You can overeat actually, but not too much. And eat real food. And what'll happen is in that intermittent time frame, that 20 hours of no food, you're actually going to start burning a little bit of liver fat and a little bit of fat in your system because you run out of the carbohydrates in about 15 hours after not eating food. The carbohydrate that's stored in your liver runs out. And your body needs calories, so it becomes very efficient and it starts finding calories from fat. And then when you decide to go back to eating again, you're going to eat a keto diet. You're not going to eat a normal diet. Carbohydrates are killing you. You better come to terms with that. Most of you are dying from too many carbs. So it behooves you to learn that and start increasing your proteins and your healthy fats and eating something called a keto diet so you can maintain ketones, which is the body's favorite choice of energy are ketones, not glucose. Glucose is instantaneous. I got to run. I got to get out of here. The house is on fire. There's a shooter outside. We got to run. I got to get away from the animal. Glucose is king in that, buddy. Let me tell you, nothing's going to get you out of that like glucose does. It feeds the brain and it feeds the muscles. Ketones are fat. Fat's a very different molecule, which is only utilized when you run out of glucose. You don't burn fat if you just skip a meal every now and then. In fact, you're making your body sicker. If you want to burn fat and be sure you're burning fat, you got to go more than 20 hours without eating, guys. Now, a lot of this doesn't mean much to somebody under 50 years old, 20s, 30s, 40s, early 50s. Probably they're not as desperately in trouble metabolically, but something really happens at 50 to 60 years old in humanity where all of these bad habits, these improper choices, these things you thought you could do and get away with, all of a sudden, the chickens come home to roost. And this is where you see people being put on medications. This is where you see people having problems with sexual function. These are the people that are losing hair very quickly. These are the people that are looking older than they should. And these are the people you see showing up at these, with the Ozempic hanging out of their arms, getting shots and injections because they can't change their metabolism. Their body fat's too high. and they've done everything. They think they've done everything, but they've never gone without eating. And now they're on Ozempic, which is not a good idea. It's an idea, it's out there, and a lot of people will tell you it's okay, but I'm telling you, you're talking about metabolism here. You're talking about the interface between your diet, your gut, and your body's ability to take in calories and nutrition from its environment. Ozempic, GLP-1s interfere with that interface. They shut off the system. They shut it down. If your nuclear reactor was overreacting, it was running too fast, and you would shut it down. And Ozempic and GLP-1s are shutting down your digestive tract using a peptide, which is really a protein that your body produces naturally when you need to shut down the digestion. There are situations in your life when your digestion needs to slow down and needs to shut off. And GLP-1 is the peptide which the body makes naturally to do that. There's also a peptide, which is the sister of GLP-1, and this peptide speeds up your digestion. There are times when your digestion will need to move faster. And a great example is you eat a bad clam. You're at the seafood bar. It was Sunday, and they left the clams out a little too long, and 2 or 3 of them got warm, and some bacteria formed, and you ate it. I hope to God you're not on GLP-1 when you eat it, because your digestive tract is semi-paralyzed from that drug. I hope that your body is functioning normally, because that rotten clam that you just put into your belly needs to come out very quickly. And that's the flip side of the GLP-1, is the one which speeds things up, and you need that. Yet, because the GLP-1 is being given to you not because you really need it, it's being used to try to stop you from eating, to make you feel full longer, to slow down the movement of food through your body. At what price is that? Do you pay for that? The latest one right now is that GLP-1s are being used to treat opiate addiction and alcoholism. There's studies that have been shown, peer-reviewed, double-blind controlled studies that show that people that take GLP-1 agonists that are on Ozempic are less likely to become addicted to opiates and to abuse they're more less likely to abuse alcohol. Because why? Because they can't eat. Their body their digestive tract has stopped working. It's slowed down to such a point that they can't even process a drink. And the opiates, they have a time frame when you eat an opiate to where it's produced and it's metabolized by the liver in the body. And what happens is, with the GLP-1, it affects that ability to clear that out of the body. So people they can't take as much because it's staying high in their system. Now, if you're a normal human, which maybe is 70% of the world, this is probably not much of a problem for you. But if you're somebody who drinks alcoholically, who's going to drink regardless, or if you're an opiate addicted person who doesn't believe that they need less, and now you're compounding the problem with a digestive malady to stop the clearance of the opiate, and now you're still taking the opiates, think how risky that would be. Your body clears out these toxins through the liver, and it's called a half-life. Every pill that you've ever bought or been given, the prescription, has a half-life, how long it lasts in the metabolism, and that's how they determine when you need your next dosage, by how quickly it stayed in the bloodstream. When you're on GLP-1 and your digestive tract is being hampered or impaired in some way, they don't really know exactly how, but they know that the whole system slows down. And what happens is you affect the clearance, the metabolic life of those drugs. They stay in the system longer. But they're not putting that into the equation when they give you more drugs that you're on this drug. You see where I'm going with this? It's I don't want to use the word, but you can put an S in front of storm and you know where I'm going with this. This is not compatible. This is physiologically incompatible with life and healing and living. Yet it's become so common. It's like, why would, well, if you have a headache, just hit yourself on the other side of the head and your headache you won't notice the one on the right as much as this new one. That's how they treat it. You're not going to get a GLP-1 at my office. I promise you that. And if you are on GLP-1s, Ozempic, you you have to be on them the rest of your life. I don't know if they told you that. And when you get off them, if you're lucky enough to get off and have your digestive tract come back to normal, which a lot of people don't. I've had people come into my office that had been on the Ozempic and been on the Mounjaro, and they still have not been able to have a normal bowel movement 2 to 3 months following the cessation of that drug. 30% of the people that take Ozempic or Wegovy stop within the first 30 days because the side effects are too much for them. 30%. Yet, man, it's like giving away, there's such a line for it. It's incredible. So if you're looking for an option, if you're looking for a solution and you want to get off the Ozempic and you need to get your blood sugar under control, you want to get off the drugs, the metformin, the glipizide, you want to start feeling your feet again, which comes from neuropathy, you need a serious metabolic overhaul that begins with food, eating the proper foods, getting the right amount of movement, and also fasting, beginning the onset of fasting, intermittent, and also day-to-day fasting, and the use of red light laser therapy to stimulate metabolic function, to improve your metabolism. Because what this red light laser that we're applying to people's body fat, that red light activates your metabolic pathways. That light is used as energy by your tissues because early in Earth's creation, light powered and still does power everything in our environment, including your mitochondria. And that light is given to us by the sun in the form of red light and near infrared light. Not blue light, not yellow, not green, not purple, not UVA, not infrared. I'm Sarah. Infrared is correct. No ultraviolet. There's one specific wavelength of light, which is very, very beneficial to humans. And that would be red light, 628 nanometers is the nanometer color, right up to about 1,000 nanometers, which would get into the near infrared light spectrum. In fact, infrared has been omitted and has been screened out of all of our lighting fixtures today. I'm sitting here in front of an incandescent light bulb. This is a full spectrum light I'm looking at. Full spectrum means it has all the wavelengths that sunlight has. Full spectrum. It's got the yellows, the blues, the purples. It's got the red. It's got the near infrared. It's got the UVA, UV. It's full spectrum. And what these crazy eco whack jobs have done to try to preserve energy and stop global warming, right? They decided to remove the spectrum, the color that creates heat in light bulbs. Right. So a full spectrum light, you can feel the heat when you put your hand under it, you feel the heat. When you take an LED, by the way, the Japanese scientists that discovered the LED won the Nobel Peace Prize for it. This was like revolutionizing lighting. And what it does is an LED is mainly blue light behind it. It has an enormous amount of blue light. But then the other colors are also within it, but it does not have any infrared or red. So it doesn't create heat. So LEDs in your house are cool. They don't have any heat coming out of them. And you say to yourself, well, that's good. I don't want to waste electricity and generating heat. It makes my house hot. And my air conditioner has to work harder. Well, guess what there, Jocko, super professor? You've just screened out the most beneficial wavelength to your whole body that starts your clocks, that produces immunities, that lowers blood sugar, that helps you sleep, that helps you wake up with melatonin and cortisol. This is all controlled by light, you people. All controlled by light, not LED light, infrared and red light. So this is, these are some new ideas, things you probably never heard of. Mark my word, in another 10 years, this will be shown as probably the biggest cause of metabolic syndrome, of diabetes, of high blood pressure, of high cholesterol, of dementia, of Alzheimer's, is the fact that we are being starved and not getting a proper amount of dosage of infrared and near infrared light. The studies are mind-blowing. How many studies are out there showing that 10 minutes a day in the morning, facing the sun, the first 2 hours, super beneficial. Now, the sun, as it gets higher in the atmosphere, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2, 3, 4, that's blue light. And blue light has been shown to raise blood sugar. It jacks it up. Blue light creates stress response. It's high energy light. And we want to limit the amount of blue light we get. But that doesn't mean the whole sunlight is bad, because it's not. Every morning, you want to know where Dr. Tread is? 7 in the morning, I'm sitting facing the sun, shirt off, sitting back, just relaxing with my eyes closed. I let that sunlight go in, starts my circadian rhythms, helps my metabolism, lowers my blood sugar. And that's what I practice at the Slim Body Laser Spa. If you want to come in and get your mind filled with a lot of new information, find out why we're making such a dent on metabolic syndrome. I have off of all of my metabolic syndrome drugs. I haven't taken any metformin, no glipizide. They were putting me on insulin, for crying out loud. And I lost weight. I exercised. I cleaned up my diet for the most part. I still couldn't reverse it. Once I started following the red light protocols specifically every day, and also using the red light devices on myself to keep my body fat low, to stimulate collagen production, to keep my blood sugar low, these devices, you can buy them at home. But, you want to get a little knowledge, because there's a lot of charlatans out there too, selling LEDs that have no benefit at all. Anyway, I hope I got you excited. Listen, we're having lectures and talks all the time at my office. If you'd like to come in for a free consultation, we're going to do these lunch workshops. I plan on doing them on Thursday from 12 to 2. So from 12 to 2, we're having some presentations on red light, on fasting. And at the end of it all, we're going to have a little lunch served by Carmela's. If you're interested in booking that, it's, you got to qualify by calling us first, and we can schedule you. You can also bring a friend. And that's going to be our latest push every single Thursday from 12 o'clock to 2 is going to be the lunch workshop, and it's open to people. You can come one time, our cost, our fee, and you can't do it twice because otherwise you'd be there for lunch all the time. Anyway, we love you. We appreciate you all and everyone that's been listening and following me online. I hope that I hope I didn't ramble too much. I have a lot of stuff. I got pages of stuff here that I should be reading. I didn't look at any of it, okay, you guys? This comes from my heart. It's Dr. Tread's Slim Body Laser Spa, 772-223-5885. Just go to Dr. Tread on your Siri and hit it and say, Dr. Tread Slim Body. It'll give us our number. Come on down. We're on East Ocean, right across from the Fresh Market. I will see you next week. God bless. And remember, get your light in the morning.